Hello and welcome to Portsmouth This Week. I'm your host, Conley Zani. This show is under the auspices of Rich Rayner, our Portsmouth Town Administrator. Together, Rich, myself, and the entire Portsmouth This Week team are on a mission to build community. We do that by bringing you accurate and timely information about the issues that impact you. We introduce you to the faces, the leaders in our town that make up this very magical place that we live. I'm very honored to have our guest, Terri Cortvriend, who is our state legislative representative of District 72. Welcome, Terri. Thank you for being on the show.
Nice to see you.
We've had you before,
yes.
So I'm excited to kind of recap some things that have...
Thanks so much for having me again.
Yeah,
Appreciate
absolutely. I just love kind of keeping up with you and all, I mean, we were just discussing how much input you get from all the constituents and all the big issues, and I certainly want to talk about whatever you would like to talk about, but I did get bombarded yesterday by text messages of come to, I don't even know where it was, but it's like, let's go talk about the Mayflower wind. So I don't want you to necessarily weigh in at this point, but can you tell us, me, the viewers,
Sure.
a little bit about the process? Because I think we're really early in the process to be getting wound up just yet.
That's right.
Is that fair?
Yeah, I think it is fair, and
Okay.
I'm not ready to come out with a position for the very reason you say, because there is a process where we will get expert advisory opinions. The PUC will be. First off, the legislature doesn't have really a role in this, other than as an individual I could weigh in, and maybe some of my constituents would like me to do that.
And
But
what's the PUC?
The Public Utilities Commission, and I should rephrase that. It's the Energy Siting Board that actually comes before this. The PUC has a role on that board, and so forgive me, I misspoke. It's the Energy Siting Facilities Board.
Right. So right now, this whole process is in the hands of this board,
Yes.
not the hands of the town of Portsmouth.
Right, but the town of Portsmouth gets to weigh in.
Yeah.
And so does, and the Energy Siting Board will have a hearing. They had a introductory hearing, if you will, on the 18th, I believe.
Yep.
And they asked for advisory opinions. And there are 2 required advisory opinions that they always have to have. And if you'll let me refer to my notes, because
Please, let's get this right?
I did do the research on this because people have been asking me about this.
Yeah.
So on August 18th was the preliminary hearing of the EFSB, and that was to review the filing for the purposes of scoping the issues for the agencies to develop advisory opinions. No decision on the application was made at that meeting. It's going to take a while. It's going to be a number of months.
Okay.
In early September, it's expected that the EFSB will convene an open meetings for board members to discuss the scope and designate agencies for advisory opinions. And the PUC always needs to submit one of those advisory opinions to the siting board, and that's how they interact with each other.
Okay.
Planning also assesses the impact on the socioeconomic impact and consistency with the state guide plan. So those 2 advisory opinions are required by statute, and then the siting board can request other advisory opinions. Okay. And they are not the only agency that reviews this, because CRMC must also approve this, and DEM has an opportunity to weigh in.
Right.
So there's a whole host, I believe, on when Mayflower Wind did their public presentation, they showed like a whole page of different agencies stakeholders that are involved in this process. So this is going to be a while, and I do think we should wait to hear what the experts say. before we take an opinion on this, because we are in need of, we're faced with energy shortages. We're looking at higher cost energy, and it's these offshore wind farms that are going to enable more power to come into the area and drive that cost down. So I think that is when people say, what's the benefit for us? That even though this is a Massachusetts project, Rhode Island's going to have their own projects, and we all are members of ISO, and all that power goes into one regional grid, and we all benefit from that.
Yeah. So you see potential benefit, but it's still very early.
Yes.
You're not weighing in yet. You're
no,
wait to hear
weighing
from
in
the
on the
experts.
path that the cable takes. I think we should weigh in to hear what the environmental impacts are, and I think we'll learn that in the process, whether they are or aren't, and they haven't even decided exactly which way they're going to go. I think they've decided which way they want to come ashore, but then there was a question whether they were going to go to the left or to the right.
Yep, there's some choices.
And, yes, and I don't even know that they know yet. So I think we should let the process play, trust the process.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we'll be having you back on the show to talk more about it as we know more.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, you should have Mayflower Wind come in too.
Yeah, well, we are discussing that. It's so interesting on this show. We've got to figure out how to be balanced. How do we always present issues balanced? And clearly this is a hot topic.
Yes.
This is a hot topic. That,
it is.
Yesterday, this text, people were really wound up.
And I do believe that the town is negotiating. It's just that's not all public yet. Right. Because negotiations typically are handled in executive session. Yeah. So I think Portsmouth should take a deep breath.
Take a deep breath.
And
we all?
Yes, and let's see how this pans out, because there are a number of leases that have already been, that companies are already bidding on. So we are going to have offshore wind off our coast. Yeah. And I think that's a given.
And you mentioned we are all anticipating electric prices to go up, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. And that, maybe the day after, I asked this woman from the PUC to give me some guidance about Mayflower Wind. She's an attorney for the PUC, and she gave me such detailed information that I went back to her the very next day and said, okay, what about the rate increases? Right. And she walked me through the process on that too, and that does go before the PUC. And Rhode Island.
Anything to share with our viewers yet, or is that still a little too early?
It's too early to know exactly what they're going to do, but Rhode Island Energy is the provider of last resort. That's what they're called. And by statute, they don't make money. They don't own the power. They don't own the power generation. They are a distribution company. Yeah. So their profits come from distributing the power. But by statute, they are entitled to recover the cost of the power because they're required to provide it for all of us that have decided to not buy our energy elsewhere. Right. So if you buy from Rhode Island Energy, they are required to provide that power to us. So the PUC could decide to take this increase, which is largely a result of the war in Ukraine, the increased cost of natural gas. They could decide to distribute it over a longer period of time, so to soften the increase, but then, when the prices went down, they wouldn't go down quite as far because we would be carrying that charge over a longer period of time. Right. So that's something that the PUC will weigh in. The public is allowed to provide comments. I think there's already been the first hearing for that. So there may be open comment period now where you can submit written testimony.
If somebody wanted to pay attention to that and go to one of these hearings, where do they find out information about when?
Go to the PUC website.
The PUC website.
Yeah, and get the docket number.
So you might Google Rhode Island PUC.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, and I
Okay.
was looking to see in these notes if I actually have the docket number. Week of July 25th, they assigned legal counsel to conduct preparing a conference with the parties to set the schedule to discuss this increase. The Attorney General has intervened, so he may have, they may come up with a proposed solution.
Okay.
Let's-
Well,
yes.
I'm sure if we kind of just get to
Yes.
that website, it's
and you
gonna
can
be
get
there.
on an email address if you email Luli Massaro at she's the commission clerk. People can get on her email.
A bit of a newsletter of here's what's
so
going on.
that you can get.
I might do that.
yes.
I might do that. I'm an electric vehicle owner, and I had
As am I.
I had a big bill this this month,
Yeah.
and yeah. So
Yes.
paying attention to that.
Yes. Do you have your solar panels on your roof?
No, I don't. I feel like I don't face the right way. I don't know. That's been a little. It's hard to know who to go with, and we'll have to talk about that sometime. But,
Another topic.
But listen, let's transition to some really good news, which I'm seeing progress on our roads
Yeah.
in Portsmouth. Like some potholes are disappearing and everything.
For once, I was getting pleasant emails and people thanking me.
Were you-
which
were you?
I think the last
Good.
time I was here, I was telling you, I don't really have anything to do with the roads, and that's when I brought Meredith Brady from
That's
planning.
right. That's right.
But now people are thanking me.
Yeah, that was just last October, I think, you
Yes.
were on with Meredith. And that
Yes.
was really informative about just the future plans and, again, process,
Yeah,
right?
right.
We all get so wound up and we're not aware of the process. And so I know that the big redo is a 23 to
I think
26?
I think it's in that window. Yes.
Yeah, so we
Yes.
haven't even had that big redo
No.
yet, but we're seeing evidence of the state caring.
I think the injection of infrastructure dollars gave DOT more money, and they were able to come and do, and really the potholes had gotten so bad that they could not do their regular just fill. That was not going to work.
They had to go a little extra.
Yes, so this was all under safety, and I have confirmed with them multiple times that this is not instead of.
I was just going to ask you. I
Yeah.
was like, let's not make it so good that all of a sudden
Yeah.
they're like, that's good, we don't have to
We're
do
done.
anything. Right?
But
No.
that's, no.
So we all
No.
have something really to look
Yes.
forward to.
Yes. So
That's great.
if we think we'll probably all be cursing during
Well,
the time.
yes. Oh,
but
I
they did
can't-
a really good job of working at night, and people were really grateful for that. And I hope that they do something similar, but the next project will be more extensive.
Yeah, and we've got some nice crosswalks.
Yes, yes, and that was all a result of the safety audit that we did
Right.
a couple of years back, probably just before COVID.
Yeah, so that's directly addressing the concerns
Yes,
in that.
because when we did when we did that safety audit, it was observed that our crosswalks, some of them were out of date, some weren't in correct locations, they weren't. So yes, that's what that's a result of.
Okay, well, cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I know you've had a big win. You've been, I don't know if the right word is sponsoring an initiative about access to our beaches.
Yes,
I'd
shore,
love
shoreline
access. And,
Yes.
and I would love for you to tell everybody there's some really interesting drama here. Like there have been some fights and arrests that maybe spurred all of this. So
Yes.
can you kind of paint a picture for us?
Sure,
So that
sure.
whether our viewers are living on the shore or not, they get a sense of the tensions.
Right. The tensions are less so on Aquidneck Island and more so down in South County on our southern-facing shores.
Okay.
And several years ago, there was a gentleman named Scott Keeley who was arrested. At the time, I did not know who he was. I did not realize that he was actually an activist.
Yeah.
I did not even know that there was this big issue.
Okay.
But people were sending me the article because they knew I was interested in sea level rise. And in his comments when he got arrested, he was questioning, who's going to win or lose as we lose shore to sea level rise. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I started asking questions. How could I learn more about this? What's happening? And then I realized, people are sending me to go talk to fishermen, and I was confused why I was being sent to talk to fishermen. But I realized that this is a whole nother issue unto itself.
Well, what is that issue?
Well, the issue is that there was a court case in 1982 that defined where property lines were in the judge's mind at mean high water.
I was going to ask, is this the mean high tide or?
Mean high water, yes.
High water, okay.
And,
yes, I hear that all the time.
Yes, and then that was in 82 as a result of another arrest. and then there was, in 1986, there was a constitutional convention in Rhode Island, and there on the ballot there were multiple amendments to our Constitution, and there was one that expanded and better defined what Rhode Islanders' privileges to the shore were or are, but it did not specify where. And so we had this enhanced explanation, but it didn't really define the where. And
which it all comes down to the where.
Yes.
Right? That's what everybody's fighting over.
So I saw these two different things, and I spent time with two different professors, one at URI, Mr. Dennis Nixon, and another professor from Roger Williams University. I met with them both. They schooled me on this. I did meet with the Rhode Island saltwater anglers. And this was a bipartisan effort in the House with Minority Leader Blake Filippi. And so we had put in a bill just to decriminalize access along the shore within 10 feet of the most recent high tide.
So specifically that means if somebody's out there and they're within that 10 feet, they can be there and not be removed by the police.
Right. We were just going to decriminalize it.
Okay.
But that bill did not pass. But that bill, instead, the Speaker of the House said, you need to have a study commission. And a lot of people kind of looked at me because study commissions are normally where bills go to die. But I did not know that, and I put together
a study commission.
a group of experts, and the Speaker, he put some people on that. I knew the people I wanted, and we had like different categories. We wanted we wanted a land surveyor. We wanted, I wanted these experts from the universities. We had Save the Bay. We had CRMC. He wanted to have a land use attorney, and he wanted to have the realtors. And so we had about 12 people on this commission. Oh, and we had a retired Supreme Court Justice, Judge Frank Flaherty was on the commission as well. And so we had all these people. We had we studied the issue for several months. We had a host of experts come in. We had historians. We had CRMC. We had DEM. We had 2 sessions of public testimony. We had a property rights person come in and talk to us. So we heard from a variety of experts, and really the most I would say the most moving expert testimony we heard were from the coastal scientists at the Coastal Institute, which is at URI. And these 2 scientists that came and spoke to us have been studying the South Shore, I think at Matunic. And they go out once a month, I believe, with all their surveying equipment. And first off, you cannot just see mean high water with the naked eye. You need surveying equipment.
Right, which is part of the challenge.
Right, and they've been measuring it. And they were measuring it for 2 things: to see how much it moved, which is significant. It moves quite a bit.
All the time, right?
Yes.
It's moving constantly.
Yes, because the shore is always moving. Yeah. and also that it's underwater most of the time. And when the members of the study commission heard that, they just thought that was not right for Rhode Islanders. So we had a unanimous consensus among the group that we should do something. And we put forward a bill that was similar, but it was not a trespassing law. It was right in CRMC's statute, and it just says that Rhode Islanders can be within 10 feet of the most recent high tide. The commission felt like we should provide an area where people could walk, where they didn't have to get their feet wet if they chose not to, if they wanted to be walking during the winter time. And 10 feet there was discussion between 6 and 10, and we had a majority went with 10. So that's how the bill went in, but when it came out of the Judiciary Committee, because it passed out of the Judiciary in the House, it got knocked back down to 6, and it was unanimously passed by the House. But we did not have a Senate sponsor. And when the study commission finished its work March 31st, and there is a report online that people can read.
All
they
right.
can go to.
I think I got to go read that.
I'll leave this copy for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And so it was past the Senate's deadline, and I think Senate leadership didn't want to take this issue on in 2022, but I have no doubt that there will be. It's coming. It's 2023.
Well,
there will be.
I would love to read that. I mentioned to you, and I know we're talking kind of about South Shore stuff, and I'm a believer that everybody should have access. I want everybody to have access. I think Portsmouth, we wrestle a little with, okay, we want everybody to have access, but then how do we get people to treat the shoreline with respect?
That's
and
true.
like how can we have access but not create something that feels safe and sustainable?
Yeah.
And
litter was the biggest thing, and so I just want to say this commission looked at lateral access, not perpendicular access. Although,
what does that mean?
Well, perpendicular is how you get to the shore,
the
and
right of
lateral is along the shore. So this study commission, we were tasked specifically with looking at lateral
you're defining
access.
the where can people hang out?
And under the assumption that you have already gotten there by a legal right-of-way. We are not endorsing, the bill was not allowing people to walk through private property, so you have to get to the shore with a correct legal right-of-way. And we were not trying to create a band of lawlessness either, and littering is already a crime, and it would remain a crime. And that pains me. That's the one thing that bothers me, because that is the most, we did hear that complaint from property owners about about litter being left behind. And I wish I had a way to make people be more responsible, because
me too.
But that happens anyway today.
I'm thinking so much about this issue just because of where I live in Portsmouth, and it is tricky because it is a crime to, I think, have open containers and litter, right?
Yes, both.
But for our municipalities to police that, and it does fall to them, and they just, they kind of have to catch somebody right in the act, and usually as they're coming down a right-of-way, there's plenty of runway for people to be like, put your stuff up, and it's just a little untenable, and tensions are, I think, mounting. So I'm going to be anxious to see how we address that, as a state, as a municipality, and but congratulations. I do think it's really nice good work on defining the where and the, that's one step closer to clarity on it all, right?
Yes, and I think we'll go back, now that we're trying to get the Senate enticed. I'm hoping that Save the Bay will host a workshop after the elections, because there'll be new legislators that aren't familiar in both the House and the Senate, and we can hash out, maybe if there's going to be any changes to it, because we want to include our Senate partners in that discussion for 2023.
Absolutely. All right, let's see.
So-
Let's talk. We've just got maybe 5 minutes left.
Wow.
I know. I feel like you and I could just talk forever. Do you want to hit some water quality issues, or would you just like to do a nice recap of, I know you're out of session right now.
We
and
are.
Great progress was made, and maybe you just want to highlight a few things. I'll leave it to you.
I brought a little list of,
Okay.
of the things that the legislature accomplished this past
Hit me.
year.
What did you do?
So one thing I think that I know there was a lot of interest in District 72, but probably all around Portsmouth, is for tax relief, we made military pensions are no longer taxable.
I heard that. That's great.
I know that is something that's near and dear. We have so many retired military here in Portsmouth, so I was really glad to be able to support that, and that was included in the budget. People with children that are making, I think there is a income cap, but they are getting $250 per child this year, up to 3 children.
Okay.
So
that's a big impact on your district.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think so.
Good.
Housing has been a big priority in the House. The Speaker, that's
It's affordable
his
housing?
issue. Yes, housing.
Just in
Increasing housing stocks, but yes, we would be involved in affordable and low-income housing.
Well, I would definitely say
So-
most of our people here would say we can't, like, my kids won't be able to afford to live on Aquidneck Island.
Right.
As an example. Like, I hear
Right.
that all the time, and really sad stories of people, that are renting that, their owners want to sell, and then they can't live here.
It's true.
So
We just overall lack of housing stock, I think, across the state. So while our programs are focused on low-income housing, I think just increasing the housing stock would be helpful for everybody, all up and down. Because when you look at prices on the island, it's
Yes, we closed on a house yesterday, so I'm very well aware. It's insane. Like it's all good, but like it's insane, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So I was going to look at my environment list. While we already have this in Portsmouth, we did pass the plastic bag ban, was passed by both chambers and signed by the governor. We passed legislation prohibiting PFAS substances in food packaging. That was actually my bill that I sponsored. And we also passed legislation that would provide for the Department of Health to take action to establish maximum contaminant levels for PFAS in drinking water, and to set interim standards. And we've been trying to get that done for quite a while. And somebody said early on, we won't be able to get 2 PFAS bills passed, because the year before the Senate had passed the water bill and the House had passed the food packaging bill. And I was afraid that was going to happen again, but we were really lucky that we got them both passed, which is great.
So, Terri, we're going to have to wrap up because we're less than a minute here, and I just congratulations on all the hard work. And would you want to tell our viewers just like how to reach you if they have any questions, concerns, compliments?
Well, you can always send me an email. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook.
You have a beautiful newsletter?
I have a newsletter. If somebody wants to sign up for my newsletter, they can just drop me an email that just says newsletter. I'll add you to the list. You can call me on my Google number there that's on the screen, and I will call you back. Leave me a message, and I will definitely call you back.
You've been so responsive, and I know that I can do that too. And it's such a pleasure to have you on this show.
Thank you for having me.
I hope you'll come again very soon.
We need a longer session.
Yeah, I think we do. So thank you very much, everybody. My guest was Terri Cortvriend, who is our legislative representative of District 72. We'll see you next time on Portsmouth This Week.